And so Social Chica's Bossfest conference and market, it has came and went. They brought together tons of Latinas from all spaces to come together and unite in discussion of camaraderie, of entrepreneurship and goal setting. And Jessica Jake Tafoya, she was a special guest at this year's Boss Fest. She joins us today in the KRLD Zoom room. She is the founder of Moddlab. She's been called a trailblazing Latina in the Dallas-Fort Worth beauty industry by POPSUGAR magazine. And it's just a pleasure to be connected with you today and to talk more about an industry that really has been going through a lot, as so many different industries have since the pandemic. But let's start with Bossfest, because we did talk about that as it was coming up these past couple of weeks. How did it go?
Bossfest went amazing. I was super honored that Brianna and Vicky allowed me to be a part of such an amazing event. I loved it because it was really brought together like a community of just Latina women who were all kind of had something to contribute to society. It created a culture. Me being the keynote speaker was amazing. And I remember talking about this on stage, and I told them how crazy it was that this pretty much around the same time frame last year, I was going through a very serious, deep depression. And the fact that I had the opportunity to step on stage and speak my message and talk to these women about mental health, because a lot of them in the crowd were entrepreneurs. So being able to talk to them and connect with them, and share my message on my mental health journey, my entrepreneurial journey, even motherhood, and being even Latina in the community, being able to share that message was awesome. And afterwards, I had so many women coming up to me saying, "Hey, I connected with you on this part of your message, and I connected with you on this part of your message." And the one thing that I told every single person that came up to me was, the best thing that you can do is take whatever you heard from me today and pay it forward. Pay it forward, because mental health is not talked about as much as it should be, especially in our industry. We're mental health coaches.
It's always brought up that, yeah, you go to the hairstylist and you just let it all out. There's your therapist.
We know everything.
Yeah, if you can't talk to your stylist, who can you talk to if you're not going to a bar to talk to a bartender?
Who can you talk to? And that's not even saying that's a bad thing. I promise. That's not an omen or anything. We want you to dump all of, we're your trauma dumpster. We're really good at kind of filtering that out. But being able to juggle entrepreneurship and motherhood and everything that comes along with it, mentoring and teaching, and still being a stylist behind the chair, can definitely be a struggle, and it can be a challenge. So I was able to share that with the crowd. And then on top of that, afterward, having an amazing market, connected with so many other business owners. Overall, it was a great event. I was so grateful to be a part of it. Very honored.
What did you learn from those other entrepreneurs at this event that you might not have known before you went there?
We are all the same. We are all the same. We started the same place. We took a chance on ourselves. We took a leap of faith. I love that part. And that was one thing that I connected with everyone that I spoke to. Was like, every booth that I went to, tell me your story. Where did you start? And we all came from the same place. We might have been sewn from different threads, but we all had the same goal in mind, was to be able to provide a service, to give back to our community, to create a culture and a brand that made a difference in this world, so that when it was time for us to go, we at least had something to give back.
No, absolutely. And that's one of the things that is so great about events like this, is that bringing that camaraderie is so important, so that you guys have somebody to lean on. Because as we all know, the pandemic really threw a lot of people through the loop, but especially service industries. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that, the ebb and flow of how the service industry has been. We have seen over the past 2 years an increase on people's spending habits and spending more in the beauty industry. Is that something that you're seeing from your experience as well?
I'll tell you what, when pandemic happened, when we got shut down, I really didn't think that many businesses were going to survive that, especially us. I'm like, who in the world is going to want to get their hair done after this? Who is going to want to be directly connected with someone? It's easy to, tap or go and buy food and you don't have to connect. But when we're doing someone's hair, we're literally face to face, hands, it's a very, very contact job. And I was really scared we weren't going to pull through. What was crazy was that in 2020, because at that time I had both Moddlab and Body Lab, and we were still under construction in our Arlington location, but we were able, by the grace of God, we were able to open up in May of 2020 in the Arlington location, mostly because of the capacity situation. They weren't allowing more than a certain amount of people in the salon. So we had our Arlington location that had plenty of room. So what I did was we kind of just threw that one together as quick as we could, open that one up so that my team could spread out. But what was funny was that in 2020, we brought in more gross than the last, 8 years that we had been open. Once we opened back up, people came in like a flood.
Wow.
It was insane.
The one thing about that is, and one thing a lot of businesses discovered is when you don't have that personal touch, that human interaction, because we were all stuck at home, they flocked to be able to just talk to somebody face to face, let alone a stylist, because everyone by that time had COVID hair down to their necks.
We still
trying to learn how to cut their hair at home.
Exactly.
We still have people, even women who are experiencing post-COVID hair loss. It really is a thing. It's insane. But to piggyback off of what you said, David, with the whole the disconnection of people, the scariest place to be is alone in a quiet house with your thoughts. Mm-hmm. That is the scariest place to live. And that's definitely something that I talked about too with the Bossfest. Like sometimes it's necessary to be in that space. Talk to yourself. What is your mind telling you? How do you work through these issues? So yeah, it's pandemic really it changed the economic landscape of the beauty industry. Because what we had was a rise in salons that were commission-based. Now, post-COVID, stylists were scared. What if we get shut down again? Everyone's looking at their money. Everyone's looking at, well, what am I giving the salon? Well, I don't want to give that to the salon if I can make that by myself. So what's happening is you're seeing stylists leave commission-based salons going into suites.
Yeah.
And they're taking their business there. But here's the problem with that. Some of them don't give themselves enough time to build up clientele. So they're going into suites and they're failing. They don't have the marketing that's coming from salons. They don't have, the culture that's coming from salons. You're going from a salon experience into a box and then charging more, if not double what they were charging in the salon. So now people are, they're in survival mode and they're like, hey, I need to make this money. I need to do this. So they're leaving. Then what's happening is there's a decline in commission salons. And now most salons are starting to change from commission and now they're starting to do booth rent. But what's happening with the economy? What's happening with the economy is that inflation it knocked up all of our product. So now it's being more difficult for salons to stay open at a booth rental rate. It's not easy. And that was a big reason why I had to shut down the Mod and Body Lab last year.
Wow.
Most of that, yeah.
I'm really curious that, when we talk about industry standards, a lot of things were also thrown for a loop when people were jumping from industry to industry because people wanted to change their job, looking, like you said, at survival mode, trying to find something to hold on to. And I can only imagine that, your industry is difficult if you don't have that clientele that you say, I need something more consistent. Were you seeing a lot of people leaving the industry coming back now, or is that still a struggle with labor?
No, what I'm seeing in the salon industry right now, or in the beauty industry in itself, is there's a big hype about it. What's happening is there's a lot of hairstylists who are now becoming very famous. They're influencers now, and there's a big hype in our industry. So you're having a lot of people and young people who are coming in saying, okay, I want to make what they make in a year. I want to bring in what they bring in. I want to be Insta famous as well. Well, the problem is it takes time for someone to trust you. It really does. And until you are able to master your craft, you're stepping out of the industry completely blindsided. So what I did to kind of bridge that gap from hair school to salon was I built the Mod Academy. So my Mod Academy is an advanced education school, which lo and behold, we're actually teaming up with Ogle, which is an amazing opportunity going forward. I'm really excited about that.
Another DFW powerhouse. I remember going there as a kid.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm very excited.
Congrats.
But what we're doing is we're kind of bridging that gap from student coming out of cosmetology school, being completely blindsided, thrown into the salon, or going straight into a suite, expecting to succeed within the first, second year. We're creating classes that are business-based, that are help you build social media, that help you build your finances, because there's not classes like that that exist in cosmetology school. What's happening is in cosmetology school, they're pretty much teaching you how to pass state board. That's about it. So then these students are coming out, they're coming into a salon like mine and having to do a year of apprenticeship because they're not prepared to take clients. So I have to reteach them and get them ready. So the academy is able to help bridge that gap, to help them succeed a little bit quicker. It took me, I've been in the industry for 13 years. It took me this long to get this successful.
What's amazing is the fact that you have the knowledge and a forethought to be able to think that there needs to be additional schooling beyond the schooling. Every industry in the world could use something like that, because you've got college students that are graduating from college to go into the work world. They have no idea what it is they're going into. They don't know what real life is like.
And then they're going into internships. And what happens there? You're going from paying these college tuitions, going into internships and continuing to pay these college tuitions, and they can't survive. So then they're leaving what they originally had set out to do and acting out of desperation mode.
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost like when we talk about even in just, K through 12, regular, schooling here in Texas, we say, but nobody teaches you adult 101,
Oh my God.
Like, how can nobody told us how to, do this or do that on just maintaining a household, and those are things that you're supposed to maybe learn at home, but not everybody has that luxury.
No.
That's a luxury.
No.
What has been the response from some of the people who have came through your academy so far?
Oh, I've had an amazing response. Amazing response. I've had women that have told me, young girls, even I've had a few students who've come to me that had been maybe in the industry for a couple years and left because they didn't survive. They weren't able to build clientele. They ended up going back into the work world, in the corporate world. And they were like, I really want to get back into this. And I had a lot of good feedback, even from my apprentice certification class, where they're just like, you are able to break down something in a different perspective. I'm more excited to get back into the industry now because I'm coming in with knowledge. I'm teaching these girls to build their brand identity, to build themselves, and then build their craft on top of that. If you go into this industry and you don't even know who you are, how in the world are you going to make me feel beautiful if you don't even feel beautiful about yourself?
If you're in with a salon at some time and you decide you want to break off into doing your own thing, there's also that real gray area, the real touch area of taking the clients that you have at the salon and convincing them to join you at your new place.
Oh yeah. And believe it or not, a lot of people that even have left my salon, what we see their clients, they do leave with them and they eventually funnel their way back into the salon, just because it's an entire experience within itself. It's the aesthetics, it's the mood, it's the conversation. There's only so much you can talk about in a 4-hour period getting your hair done in a suite. It can get kind of awkward.
Right. I'm curious about, we've spoken to other industry experts, and one thing that stands out to me in those conversations also has to do with the old school versus the new school. And I was curious about your take on that in the beauty industry, because new school, like you said, you got social media, you've got these brand influencers, you've got these suites now. I mean, what are some of the other highs and lows between those two generations?
I feel like the biggest issue that we have with the old generation of hairstylists is they don't really want to change. People aren't very susceptible to change. And what's happening is social media is coming. You got TikTok coming in. You got people having to create reels and algorithms. And if you're not seen, if you're not dancing in front of a screen, usually you're not seen. We're hairstylists. I'm not a professional dancer, you guys. I do hair. I make women look and feel beautiful. And it's difficult. So what I feel like I've done, because I've been in the industry for 13 years, what I feel I've done is I've grabbed my team. my younger girls. I'm like, hey, can you teach me how to do this? Can you school me on what you've done in this aspect? Because sometimes you just don't have the time. And being an entrepreneur, I wear a million different hats.
Sure.
But on the entrepreneurial side of it, one thing that I have done in the course, the entire 11 years, and a decade plus that we've been open, that the Moddlab has been open, I never hired established stylists. That was one thing that I took coming out of school. When I decided to open up my first salon, I told myself, I want to be able to clone myself. I want to be able to recreate what's going on in here and what goes on in my head and how I formulate in my technique. So in order to do that, I can't take a stylist who's been in the industry for a long time. I need to get them out of school because they're hungry and they're sponges. They just want to soak up everything that you have to give. So that's why we trailblazed through the business and built the Moddlab into what it was, because I was grabbing girls right out of school. If I had someone that came to me that had been in the industry for 2, 3, 4+ years, unfortunately to me, they were untrainable. I needed them to be new and fresh. And that's kind of how we helped build that. But I would say to any salon, owner, any business owner, any stylist that's been in the industry 10 years plus, reach out to the younger crew. You don't have to sit here and learn how to do TikTok all day. Focus on your clients and hire someone. There's so many different outlets. There's Fiverr, there's Upwork, of people who can manage that for you. That way you can continue to do and love, and learn from your craft.
It also has to help when you hire those young people that are just getting started, that they're going to be more likely to be dedicated to you. And if they decide to branch out on their own, they'll basically ask you permission. Can I get your blessing on
Can I
it?
get your blessing? Yeah. That's one thing about being an entrepreneur, an owner, especially a salon owner. I've always told this, I've said this for years. I never expect someone to stay with me forever. And if they're coming out of school, I really don't expect them to stay with me forever. I want to be the stepping stone to their success. So if they can stay with me long enough to learn everything I can teach them, learn how to run the business, learn how to be a good hairstylist, learn how to be a good colorist, they can use me as that stepping stone to succeed. And if there are salons that open up out of mine, then I did something right.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the unspoken future of Moddlab, Mod Academy. But what do you aspire to see, the fruits of your labor to become?
Honestly, I feel like we have done such a great job at building this brand. I'll tell you that prior to last year's depression and what I went through last year, I definitely had this goal. Like, I wanted salons all over the world. I wanted Moddlabs here. I wanted franchises. I want this. I want that. I would tell you that right now, after going through everything I went through last year, just getting back to a good mental headspace, letting go, having to let go of the other 2 shops and kind of combining everybody into my one, I am very satisfied with where things are at. I'm very happy and I'm super blessed to be where I'm at, being 34 years old and being able to be here right now and say, I made it through the pandemic. I lived it. We breathed it. We survived it. I made it out okay up here and in here. Whatever comes from this and whatever I'm building is only going to be the fruits of that. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm trying to live more in the now. I'm trying to enjoy every day as it comes, because from the moment I opened up my salon until what I hit my lowest point last year, I always had my head in the future. What's next? Where am I going to be 10 years from now? I don't want to live that way anymore. I want to enjoy every moment as it comes and enjoy the journey. I think that's the most important thing.
That is Jake Tafoya joining us here in the KRLD Zoom room with Moddlab. Thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.